Welcome back to the Ben and Rest YouTube channel. Guys, we got a fun one in store for you today and tomorrow and probably the rest of this week, it seems like at this point, but we got something special. So I introduced it the other day, you know, if you were paying attention, but we got ourselves a minty fresh 2000 OBS. Now what's special about this one, this is a 3/4 ton, 6 liter, okay, or not a, soon to be, soon to be. This is a 3/4 ton, 350. So what's unique about this, most of these trucks, again, she's a crew cab, folks. Short box, she's from Iowa, so it's a decent truck for here in Michigan. Buddy of mine had her shipped in, my buddy Brent. So what's unique about this thing, it's kind of a base model. You don't see 3/4 ton crew cabs like this. Well, I mean, fancy hood, of course, you know, but she's got a 350 in her, you know, so, but this thing here has had better days. You know, she's got 160,000 miles, and that's about as much you can get out of these old small blocks. I'm just kidding, but let me start it up for you. She does make some noise. I don't know if it's a lifter or piston, or, but she's, I'll see if we can hear the knock. Look at that big dude. What's up, man? Look at that son of a bitch. You hear a whole lot of fan and a whole lot of ticky-ticky and knocky-knocky, so not good. But just for sakes, if you end up buying this motor someone, she does have 40 pounds of oil pressure. So what we got in store, so we've had this motor for, oh my goodness, 6 months, been sitting in the back corner of the shop. You may have seen it if you've been, you know, been looking around. We got a Gen 3 6 liter. So that fine unit on the engine stand right there. She is basically a stock bottom end. We did gap the rings. The plan is we're gonna pro charge it eventually. I know on a big truck like that, but how cool would that be? So 799s or 243, same thing. So we got a little extra squeeze. We do have some head studs. Now you're saying, are them ARP? No, believe it or not, they're not. They're exotic, if you've heard of them before. We have not used them, but they were priced right and we wanted to give it a shot. So exotic it is. We got the exotic crank bolt, and we got the head studs, and we also got rocker bolts too. So we're gonna give them a shot. But that's the plan for today's video, guys. We're gonna get that OBS in here. She's running right now. We're gonna pull her in, and hopefully by the end of this video, that unit right there is sitting in a hole. Right here. You see what I'm saying? So let's get to the live action. I'm just saying. It's gonna be a lot better than that, folks, trust me. So, this old girl, we're gonna take a run and drive in truck and make it not run and drive. Yeah, that's it. So you ask yourself, Brian, what's the plan? What's the freaking plan? So the plan is, and I'm gonna let you know real fast here, we have a 6 liter. This has a 4L80E. So something special that Brent ordered a while back. I may have showed it, I don't remember if I did or not. He had ordered a wiring harness from Texas Wiring Specialist out of, guess what, Texas, right? So not sponsored, but it'd be cool. He ordered a direct swap harness for this for a Gen 3 LS. How freaking cool is that? So you know what that means? Basically it's plug and play. Now, it did take like 3 months to get, guys. So if you're gonna get one, it's kind of like the current performance one we installed on our buddy Derek's Jimmy. Very similar style. But what's cool about this one is it's the fuse box, it's everything. So it's gonna be just done. No science needed. It's already figured out. Yes, it's kind of lame for you guys if you don't have that. If you want to see how we did the Chinese Amazon harness, go back a couple videos, you'll see our red OBS truck we did. Because you can do it too. He just wanted everything to work flawless in this truck, and that was the best option. Yes, it was expensive. Yes, it took time, but where do you see a nice, clean crew cab truck like this? You know, it's a 25-year-old rig, so we got to do it right. Okay, what else we got? So on that Jimmy we did, we did ICT billet accessories. This one we're doing stock, a stock LS accessory drive. But, and I'll show you this stuff as we work our way through, but right here, we're gonna retain the air conditioning. He bought a special conversion bracket. I just painted it too. I'll show you what it is and see if you pick up what's going on here. But this dude here goes where the LS alternator would go. Let me show you the brackets over here. Brand new bracket too. This guy's crazy. New power steering pump, new bracket, old ass computer. So that's gonna bolt right here. And at that point, we're gonna bolt that air conditioner right on top. And then it gives us an alternator relocation bracket, if I speak, excuse me. And it's gonna work out where all the accessories are working out like factory. That's the biggest thing we wanna utilize, is keep all that stuff going. So the computer is gonna go right here, just like our buddy Bill's truck, that red one we did. The fuse box is gonna be a new one, well, new to this truck anyways. And then as for the rest of this stuff, we're gonna use what we can, but this unit pitched in the trash. Or somebody's gonna get the cylinder heads for a circle track motor. Right? You never know. You never know what's gonna happen. So enough of me talking. Let's get the wrench in. First things first, friends, disconnect the battery, which we're just gonna pull ours out of here. But basically, I'm gonna show you the basics of pulling this engine out, but I'm hoping if you're attempting one of these swaps, which anybody can do it, trust me guys, it's not that bad, it's just nuts and bolts. It's just nuts and bolts. But I'm gonna skim through a lot of the pull out part of this. Simply because it's boring. You wanna see the meat and potatoes, the good stuff, you know what I mean? So battery first, in order to get underneath, I always like to raise them up first, or if you're doing it on your ground, it's just nice to do all the underneath stuff before you get, you know, 7 gallons of antifreeze, and then you're rolling around in that. It doesn't work out very well. So let's get up in the air. So first walk under. It's not in bad shape. Now, I mean, there is some patina going on, but all in all, it's not a terrible truck for a 25-year-old truck. Now, I would not say this is Southern Belle, but I don't know much about Iowa. They might get snow or salt. I don't really know. I'm not an Iowa guy. But if you are, let us know. So, realistically, it's definitely a great candidate for an LS swap. You know what I mean? Especially that old clapped out 350. So, got a premium dual exhaust on it. So, you're asking yourself, Brian, what hog-ass camshaft did you put in this thing? Well, Brent grabbed a Summit Racing. It's like a, I don't know, it's like their stage 2 truck cam, but no converter required, I guess, or whatever. But, you know, he also got some long tube headers too. I'll show you those in speed engineering. They're supposed to be OBS long tube swap headers, so hopefully they swap. Basically though, where we're gonna start is I'm gonna go ahead and start the basics. Drain the oil, pull the inspection cover, get the exhaust cut down, and then basically start getting all this stuff, you know, the bell housing bolts and all that stuff and whatnot. So when we're up top, and we're not getting drenched, all right? So let's get to ripping some fasteners out. Don't need this anymore. With all that noise, we gotta at least see what the oil looks like for what it's worth. Now that we got the exhaust out of the way after, you know, an hour. You know, you say I probably should have just pulled the bolts, but they're pretty rusty. So that was the best way. Holy crap, what did you cross thread this thing in there? All right, moment of truth. Ooh, she got a little shimmer to her. I know you guys probably can't see it, but she is very glittery. Wow, it's real bad. Guys, I wonder if you can see that. No, you can't. Biscuits and gravy. But I'll tell you what. She looks like she got some glitter in her. So we're going to drain this out. Next thing, obviously, we're going to pull the inspection cover. Now, something to think about. 4L80E. Now, this is the same tranny your 2000 newer body style would have. So if we get the different inspection cover, which I think I got one laying around, we'll be able to bolt it right up to the oil pan on the LS, just like factory. So the torque converter is going to bolt up the same with a 4L80E as long as we use a 4L80E flex plate on the 6.0, which is what we're going to do. And then it's all just going to mash together. That's kind of the nice part about using this style trans with that style flywheel. And like I said, the cam he got is nice because it's a stock converter type cam, so it's gonna be all right. But inspection cover, torque converter bolts, motor mounts, and then we do have to unplug some of the wiring because we're gonna go ahead and pull the whole harness with the engine. So even the transmission plug we gotta do, simply because that's gonna get all replaced with the Texas Wiring Specialist harness. So let's get done bolting. So a lot of these fasteners we're gonna save, like these inspection covers, because like I said, we're gonna change that. But keep in mind, the one thing I wanna mention, the bell housing bolts from an LS are metric versus a small block Chevy, which are 3/8 16. These are a 10 by 1.5. So what that means for you is either get your bolts with your motor if you get a used engine, or you're gonna have to buy some. But they are a 10-1.5. Now you could probably find some at the the auto parts store and whatnot, but the ones that we're running are the factory ones because they'll have the little studs on for trans dipstick and stuff. So I wanted to show you a difference. Now you may not run into this, and this may not matter to you because you don't have to have an inspection cover, but because we got one and it's just 4-wheel drive, we want protection. So you can see, small block Chevy style, it has that kind of, I don't know, we'll call that like a divider there, right? Between the flywheel or flex plate and the block. LS all cut out. But it does bolt to the oil pan. So we're gonna go ahead and make sure we'll clean that up before we put it in. But just to give you a quick reference, so if you're at the junkyard, grab one of those too. So torque converter bolts, we're gonna save all those. The starter is obviously wrong, but we do have a new starter. So you're gonna go ahead and use your LS starter, but all the factory wiring as well will work. In our case, I think the new harness is gonna have the trigger wire. We're gonna find out together on that though. Getting this starter out of our way. And a lot of this stuff is just basic normal engine swap stuff. So not really the most important. Just keep in mind, some of these things you're gonna carry over and some you're not. But for us, the starter's definitely different. So, and so are the bolts on the starter too. So make sure you have your LS starter bolts. These are a SAE bolt. Your LS ones are also a metric 10-1.5. So another note to make. So last minute tip for you before I get this wiring harness completely unplugged. Obviously hit up your basics. Now you may or may not have to do this, okay? Especially if you're blending a harness, but for us, this neutral safety switch on these transmissions, 4L60s, 4L80s, Allisons, whatever has that style, those dudes are glued in. For whatever reason, for safety, they put glue in them. So you gotta heat them up to get them to unplug. So there she is. You see that glue? Nice and gummy. So you gotta do that to both of them on that. Just a note, guys. Okay, something to note on your 4L80Es. So these guys here run 6 torque converter bolts. So when you're ripping these out, 15mm head, but yeah, there's 6. So when you get these things all the way out, you can see the torque converter is obviously free spinning. So, and it will kind of shove back out of the way. So when we get these bell housing bolts pulled out, I'm gonna take a ratchet strap and you'll see I'm gonna tie up the transmission. Honestly, guys, it's because I don't want to have to put a floor jack under it. You could floor jack it and screw around that way, but I found a ratchet strap works nice. Once the motor's out, give her a couple clickety clicks, you know, it brings it right up. Lines right back up, it's perfect. So we're gonna jump onto them bell housing bolts real fast, and then we gotta go up top and start working on the wiring. So on this driver's side, you'll see there's a little heat shield for your wiring to run through. With us getting the OEM LS bell housing bolts, then we're gonna have that same style stud. So it's nice to, like I said, get your hands on those. I did get all the bell housing bolts out, but we're at another point here I wanted to show you real fast. We pulled the motor mount bolts too, but if you look at the power steering line right here, guys, you see how it comes in the front? So this has Evo steering, electronic variable assist, or whatever their term is, through GM, of course. So what that means is, at an idle, it's easy to steer. As you're driving down the road, she tightens up. It's basically got a valve that kind of regulates pressure, right? So with the LS swap, you're not going to utilize that anymore. Now, granted, could you probably come up with some way to do it? Absolutely. With that line and stuff and that assembly bolt right up? Yes. In our case, we're deleting it. So from what I found, there's 1 year that doesn't have it, and that's 1996. It is a Vortec engine still. So if you order a 1996 power steering line, And I'll show you that later in the video when we install that part of it. But it loops right around, plugs in the back of the pump like a normal line. So that part of it there, we won't be using. Another thing, while you got it on the hoist, or if you're working in the front area, get your ground wire, guys. You're gonna need to pull a battery cable ground off. It just makes it easier. Or if you're pulling the harness up this engine or whatever, you're not laying on your back. Well, she's back on the ground, folks. So it is time. So the biggest thing is with what we're doing here is we want to save what we're using and get rid of what we're not, right? Makes sense. So AC compressor. This thing is still charged, it still works, okay? So we're not gonna discharge it, we're just gonna unbolt it, kind of flop it off to the side out of the way, because that conversion bracket's gonna put it back where she belongs. Same with the alternator bracket. The alternator's gonna go back here. Now, we've been indecisive on where the battery's gonna go. If we put the battery on the driver's side, which is what I've done on a handful of these swaps, you utilize your stock LS battery cables and it puts it on the driver's side, right? Because your 99 and up LS style truck has it over here and your airbox over there. Kind of like we did on my 8.1 truck. So this truck, the battery is on the passenger side. And basically if we reutilize all the battery cables from this truck, which is possible, the battery goes here. The only hiccup I've ran into is trying to put the air filter in a decent spot. It is tricky because there's not a ton of room when the throttle body's here. So you need a tight 90. And with a factory airbox for a truck, you can stuff it over here. Try and put it on this side, you run into this dude. Well, normally it'd be, you know, an alternator. So I guess we're gonna see, because this one is the first one I've done with the AC still on this side. So this is a new build for me too, guys. You know, I haven't done one with a 4L80E. I've done 4L80E swaps, but not one of these trucks. So this is gonna be a first. But the basic stuff is all the same. It's just just nuts and bolts. So basically you're gonna see me, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the radiator, get the basic stuff out of the way first, and then we're gonna jump to the wiring. So this computer's gonna go. So we're gonna go ahead and we'll just unplug everything, and then we're gonna set it all on the engine, because we just wanna take it out as one big, you know, tooth. So driver's side, or excuse me, passenger side, we have our heater hoses. We're gonna bust them loose, and we are gonna replace the heater hoses because these are, you know, the originals for 2000. So radiator and stuff we're gonna pull out just to save us room. We don't want a chance damaging it. So let's get some live action. Let's get this radiator extracted, and then we'll start pulling some of these connectors and whatnot too. Where things may be a little bit different for you guys. So on this particular setup, we are removing the whole wiring harness out of this truck. So down here is a bulkhead connector. It has two 7mm bolts that hold that into the firewall. And then on the other side, it unplugs under the glove box. For us, or if you're gonna be reworking your existing harness, it's necessary to pull it out. If you're not, and you're just blending in like an eBay, Amazon harness, or doing that kind of swap, you don't have to screw with any of that stuff. Just, you'll repin a couple connectors in here and tuck the rest of the stuff in the back. I've done it, it works great as well. This job is a little bit more on the pricier side for him. He did spend like $1,200 on the harness, which is steep, but he wanted everything to work, so it's gonna be a good way to go too. But the computer and stuff, that's all gonna get set onto the engine. Same with the fuse box. We're gonna be removing the fuse box because the new Texas Wiring Specialist harness comes with a updated fuse box. So we're gonna swing that stuff on the side. So we're gonna get into the glove box though, so we can free up that side of the harness, and then we're gonna jump over to this side, and we're saving this radiator for last. Yeah, I know you've seen me pull the fan shroud and everything. It just makes a freaking mess, so we might as well save that for the end, so I'm not splish splashing on antifreeze, you know what I'm saying? So let's get into that glove box and start unplugging some stuff. Okay, so we got the connector unscrewed on the outside. You can kind of see where that pass-through comes through, right? And then you follow the harness around, and it goes up top. So it goes up behind the glove box. So we're going to go ahead and pop that down real fast. Basically pushing on the side, and it'll flip down and get that right out of your way. Let's get our light back over here for you guys. So right here is the connectors for that harness. So not a big deal really. I mean, you're only talking 2, get them unplugged. Of course, it's hard to unplug and film, but you get the idea. Get them unplugged and we'll pull this out of here. And then it frees up that whole passenger side. All right, and then you gotta screw with that. At least not yet, anyways. So, you know, the nice part about doing that, pull this right out of the way. And this whole harness can just go up here. Other than that thing that I haven't undone yet. But you see what I'm getting at. I went ahead and unplugged the rest of it off the engine. Again, the whole idea was to pile it on top, but I talked to Brent. It sounds like he's gonna hold on to this harness, this engine harness, just in case he wants to do another one of these trucks down the road. Then you gotta pay the heavy core for the harness. So, because they do rework a factory OEM one. So you'll see when we go to install that one, you'll see some used connectors and stuff like that. So I did get them all kind of out of the way. But at this point here, we're gonna jump over to the computer side. So if you haven't unhooked these computers, you got this big snap spring, usually a nice prying apparatus, and you can get it to pop up. So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug this computer. They do have some blue lock clips just to help, you know, make sure these don't come unplugged. Just more wanting to get this out of our way. Just for future reference too, if you guys ever decide to blend a harness, these pins are the same as your LS factory OEM harness or your Chinese Amazon harness. Same pins though, so. Brent, I think your truck had some friends living in it. Just saying here, guys.
Thanks for the F-Shack. Love Dirty Mike and the boys.
So I figured I'd at least introduce that harness to you. I'm kind of struggle busting on one of the connectors, so we're gonna see what they got going on for us. And I already see the problem. I do have to unplug it from the firewall, and there's a bolt in there, and it's a Torx. Okay. I'm trying to stick a 7mm, and I wonder why it wouldn't come out. Give us a nice little pamphlet. Guys, I got stuff everywhere. The S10, we're gonna be drag racing that here Saturday. She still ain't ready. We got a boost leak. I'll drop a little clip of us trying to sort that out. Guys, the S10, I'm telling you, this thing here, we've been chasing all kinds of issues. Yes, it's a new build, and you always run into this kind of stuff, but we're not making boosts. We cannot figure out why. This thing should easily make 18 pounds like nothing, right? And we're making 3 to 4. So I even put a heavier wastegate spring and thinking that maybe we're blowing the gate open. Well, now we're down to this. We got a couple PVC caps, and we're pressurizing the system. Now, it's kind of hard to show by myself here, but we are getting a nice little leak where this boot coupler goes through the core support. And it sounds like I also have a leak in my throttle body area as well. So once I get a little helper here, my kid or my dad or somebody down here, we're gonna be able to hopefully see where we can find the intake leak too, because any loss is, we're just giving off free horsepower, guys. We don't wanna do that, so. We're running out of time. Drag strip as well. I mean, we're 3 days away. And yeah, it's gonna be glorious though. We're gonna get it fixed by then, I promise. I promise. It's gonna be a good time. Figured it out yet? No, but we figured out where one of them was. So we'll let you know when we get to that point. But anyways, here is the fuse box like we discussed. You can see our wiring goes in there. This will piggyback over to, that's 4-wheel drive. But wherever the case, it'll plug in like factory. So there's our bulkhead. That actually is over, and that's where I was trying to get the darn thing out. Right down there. So we're gonna go ahead and unplug that bulkhead now that I see it's a Torx. That'll free that up. And then, was it necessary to pull it off? I'm starting to think I didn't need to, so. Because this one's got one on it. But you can see this is a used, portions are used, all right? Like obviously this fuse box is used, this bulkhead is used. And I'm assuming it's stuff you can't get anymore, that's why they did that. But either way, it'll be fine. And then another thing too, you may have noticed, obviously he got it wrapped in the braided, which looks so much better. It has EV6 style injectors. Now we are putting flex fuel injectors in this truck because it's got a big hog ass cam, and we gotta make sure we can accommodate for the extra fuel needed. Here's an extra relay, and I think this is for, relay box. They have electric fans? It is, okay, yes. This is an electric fan add-on harness. We are not hooking that up right now. We're running a mechanical fan. We're gonna save that. So the day it does get the Pro Charger or the belt-driven supercharger, we'll go there. All right, let me get this bulkhead unplugged. I think we can pull the rest of the harness out of this truck. And then we can get the motor out, because that's what you're here to see. Well, friends, I did have to pull the master cylinder loose to weasel the rest of the wiring out. So again, if that's something you're getting into, master cylinder out of the way, and that gave us enough room to weasel that big harness through here, because there's no freaking way I'm dragging it all the way through. But at that point, the motor's ready to come out. After we do the radiator, of course, but we're really close. That, my friends, is how you pull your wiring harness off your engine. I knew I was going to pile it on top, but after talking to Brent and wanting to save it, I mean, really, it wasn't that bad, but by all means, now if somebody wanted to put a Vortec 350 in something, I guess they could make a standalone. I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but you could. Yeah, not me though. Nah. My friends, is how you pull your small block Chevy out of your OBS. But look at all the room for activities. Look at that, we even got a top bolt hole for L80E, so we will have 6 bell housing bolts. Almost like it was meant to be. So something while we're looking at it, as you look right here, you're like, Brian, that bell housing bolt's not there, like on the LS. So what's gonna hold your dipstick on? We thought of that too. 2 things you can do. You can get an LS transmission dipstick tube, or let me show you something. Let me grab it quick. We got this dude right here. This is a transmission dipstick tube relocator bracket for just swaps. So you can retain your old dipstick tube because they're kind of expensive. This bolts to the back of the head on your LS, which is right here. So bolt to the back of the head in that area, and it'll give us a spot for our dipstick tube. How freaking awesome is that? That way, you can reuse what you got. If you don't want to buy this, again, LS dipstick tube, just like your LS inspection cover. So guys, I'm gonna go ahead and blow all this stuff off. She's not getting the frame off today anyway, so I'm gonna check the motor mounts, make sure they're good. If those are good, we're gonna get that engine on the hoist and get her in the hole. All right, friends, it was a new motor, and the engine lived on the engine stand. So, we got to put a rear main seal in it. I wanted to show you a tool I got. I showed you the front half before when I did on my LT for centering up the, or another LS, sorry, LS, what did I do? The LS3 for centering up the timing cover. This portion here is for centering up the rear. So, this guy goes in here, and they do go in kind of tight, so don't be afraid to give her a couple taps. You know, let me get my first hammer out here. So you kind of goes in fairly easy as long as it's square. Now that that's seated, now there isn't one for the pan like the front. Usually on the front there's a kind of a C-shaped plate that bolts up and kind of centers the timing cover this way. But from this aspect, you just snug up your oil pan bolts, and then we're gonna go ahead and tighten these ones up here. Now, this is always in question. Do as you wish. I like to put just a little bit of assembly lube on there. Some people say install them dry, right? But that's up to you. Just a little bit. We'll call that a little bit. Get your seal out. So it has your kind of little centering plastic device. This kind of helps walking on the crank. If it stays in there, of course, mine fell out. But read it. It says this side out. Make sure you put it in the right way. For whatever reason, mine has popped out. Is when you go to put it on the crank, it centers the seal. Okay? So realistically, it also kind of helps align it so it drives up on the crankshaft. So go ahead and walk that off. And it is directional. Make sure you read that thing. It doesn't take much. And I like to use this tool again, and you can put it right around the crank and tap that in. All right, friends, this is a 4L80E flywheel tied to a 6-liter. What's important about this flywheel it is straight. It is not concaved, okay? So when you're hooking up to a 4L80E, this is a direct bolt-in. If you order one for a 6-liter 80E combo and you swap it into anything with an 80E or even like a TH400, your old style trannies, perfect, right? Your hub pilot fits, no spacers. Yes, there's a spacer on here, but if you just order it for a 6.0 4L80E, comes all as one unit. Now, if you were to get involved with 5.3s and you're trying to do it, you can elongate the bolt holes. You can get a crank extender adapter there for your hub pilot of your torque converter. So this is a 5.3 flex plate. It is concave like a dish, right? This would work if you elongate these holes or if your torque converter requires you to have that. But again, different style setup. Easiest, get the right flywheel. Just buy one for a 4L80E and it works great, guys. Bell housing bolts all line up. I'm sorry, torque converter bolts all line up. It just works. And make sure you torque these to spec, of course, too, folks. You know we will. Last walkthrough before the motor goes in. I have this on, but I have it freely movable. So I have it kind of snug so I can shove it down and put the bolt in, right? Something to think about if you decide to use one of these. Also, there was a ground on the back of the small block for your frame, right? This is still a good ribbon cable, good ground. I bolt that to the head in a similar spot as the Vortec, so it'll come over here and bolt back down to the frame. Dowel pins are installed, bolts are torque spec. We hit all these up and hand checked them as well. Remain seals in. We got to make sure we tighten these bottom ones up. All right, so we gave our motor mounts a shakedown. Them look good. Basically right now, our engine bay is going to be what we need it to be. So everything's shoved out of the way. Now you ask about motor mounts. We've used these a lot. If you guys run into LS swaps and you're doing stuff with clamshell style mounts, like what a small block or a big block was, these, my friends, are the greatest thing ever. I mean, they're Dirty Dingo, I think, started them, and then everybody and their brother cloned them, unfortunately. But these things are awesome. The reason why they're so awesome, they replace where your small block clamshell would go, and then they slide. They're adjustable, so we can take the motor and slide it right up to the bell housing. I won't install these until the motor's in. It just makes it easier so they're not kind of flopping around. Then I can line up my bell housing a lot easier. Then put a couple bolts in, raise her up, put these on, and then she's in. So something I wanted to show you. If you just Google LS swap mount, they come right up. People can use the plates. The plates do work. Nothing wrong with those. I've used them in the past. These are just more convenient. So your choice. Let's get the motor mounting. So you'll see the advantage of our super sliders here. You're gonna go ahead and basically you can just fish them over now into your factory location and just bolt these things up. How freaking cool is that, guys? So what's nice, especially with the manifolds out of the way too, that makes it way easier. If I can get this darn dude started. There we go. And then we can lower it right down and we'll tighten all these up. So the benefit too is the tranny's in the right spot. We're not screwing with that. And everything just works. You know what I mean? That's the best part about these mounts. You're not fussing with trying to adjust where the clamshell is in them aluminum plates. So let me get this bolted up real quick with some Loctite on them bolts and set her down and see what we got. All right, friends, let's see if we can get these bolt holes to line up. Now those are super slotted, so you could go side to side. Now we're gonna center it up because that's gonna be best for our situation here. There she is. There it is. We shove the other one through, we can set this unit down. That, my friends, is how you LS swap an OBS. Ha! Not that bad, was it? See, it's all nuts and bolts, folks. You can do it too. So the super sliders, love them, gotta love them. They work out great. It allows you to put the motor right against the old bell housing, so or the bell housing location, so you don't have to screw around with drive shafts or any of that stuff. Plus, they are adjustable side to side if you need it, or if you were putting a different tranny, you got 4 inches of wherever the hell you want it to go. So, guys, this is gonna be a 2-part series. I do appreciate you for tagging along on this one. I want to get the meat and potatoes done and get to some sort of closure point for you guys. The next part of this is going to be making all this work together, and it's going to be glorious. And it shouldn't be that big of a deal because we got that nice Texas wiring specialist harness. The radiator's gonna go right back in factory. We got all those brackets and stuff like I showed you to mount the factory AC on it. So it's gonna be glorious. So guys, on that note, make sure you like, subscribe, share all the good stuff. We'll see you on the next one.